Hi, I'm Calvin Cantetter, and I designed my Kanban board using the MERN stack. So MongoDB, Express, React, and Node. First, I started out by designing the backend, and I used that with Express. And I've never used Express before, but it wasn't too hard to pick up, especially I'm familiar with Node.js, and I also have a good experience developing REST APIs. So once I had the backend initially built up, I tested it using Postman to make sure all the API calls were working. And after I tested that, I started developing the front end. And this was something that was new to me. I've never used React to develop dynamic sites. I've used React for static sites, but interfacing with API calls in React is something that was really new to me. So I found some tutorials online, and I used my resources to learn how to do it, and I got it implemented, and it works great. So once I got those two things finished, I have the bare bones app done. I wrote some unit tests using Mocha for the backend. So I was able to test the backend, with the test suite. Now, once I had that done, I decided to host both the backend and the front end on Heroku. So I created an app for both of them and pushed the API to the API app and then the UI to the UI app. And at first, it wasn't working, and that was because Cores was blocking the requests from the UI to the API. But once I updated the rules for the origin, it works great now, and so they're hosted on Heroku, and you can see those links in the README. But let's take a look at the backend. All right, so to go over the backend, we're going to start the API.js endpoint, and we're going to require our modules, and then we're going to import up here the database, and we're going to connect it, and then we're going to use cores, and we don't specify any options, and this is going to make it so we can allow any requests coming in, which we want for now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to require our routes, which I'll go over in a sec, and then we're going to start our app there, and we're going to listen at port, whatever we defined here. If this isn't around, then we're just going to use port 5000. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go look at our database. So this is our schema for our task model. And if we wanted to add a user or a user model or something like that, we make a user.model.js and create the model for that. Now this index right here, we look for the database URL. And if that doesn't exist, we're going to throw an error because we need to have the database to connect to for persistent storage. So once we have that there, we're going to go over to our routes, and we're going to require our controller, which I'll explain in a sec. And this controller allows us to we can assign methods to, so when we get a post request from the root, we can create a task. If we get, and this is all, we look for the headers for the data here. Now we're going to retrieve all tasks if we get a get request at root, and so on. So, but each of these methods are defined in task controller. So if we look right here, we have create, and this creates a new task and then saves it to the database. So all of this stuff right here is referenced in task.routes. And so this allows us to be able to look at the requests coming in and then connect a method to them, and then we can act on them. So then to look at the front end, what we're going to do is we're going to go back over here. We're going to start the endpoint, which is app.js. So we start with our module, our app module, and we have the nav bar right here, which is at the top of the screen. I'll show you that in a few. So then after that, we have to create our http common.js file. And it's really important. So we look for the server URL in environment variables. If that doesn't exist, we're just going to assume that it's at the API hosted on Heroku, which it'll probably be there anyway. So we have that there. And then with our apps, we kind of show our task list right here. So task list component. And I'm not going to go through all the HTML, but this is just
this just allows us to list the tasks, select them, and view them off as a card on the side, so that kind of stuff. So then we can look at add task component right here, and that enables us to add a new task. It's the page for that. And then lastly, there's the task component right here. So we have the task component, and that allows us to edit tasks as well. Now, one last thing about the backend, actually. We have our routes, our tests right here. So these routes allow us to test the backend API, and it comes with whatever the test API URL, which is whatever wherever it's being hosted right now. So this is the front end. This is the way it looks when it's rendered. And you can see here we have our to-do columns, in-progress columns, and done columns. Now I can select on one of these, shop, walk the dog, Mark Darcy, and we can view that in our task right here, our task sidebar, and we can add a new task if we go here. Let's just say go for a run, and I want to, so I'll say Calvin. And we don't really need a description, so I'm going to leave that blank. We're going to say, I already did that actually. So then we're going to go ahead and say low priority, and we're going to assign one story point to it, and we're just going to go ahead and add it. So we're going to go back, and it's right here. So suppose we look here and we want to add we don't want to add a description because there isn't any. So we're going to go say edit, we're going to say run really fast. We're going to update it, and also we're going to change the priority to medium. Let's go to update, back, right here. Medium priority, got to run really fast. So there's my app, and I hope you enjoyed it.
So there you have it. I really enjoyed building out this app, and I really enjoyed going through the back end, the front end, the UI, and making this video. And I hope you enjoy it too.